Donald Trump has said he has full confidence in him, partly because Hegseth has blamed the media, but partly because if he was going to get rid of him, he would have got rid of him already.
Again, just after that Signal affair, where we saw a chat group on social media, the Signal platform, that was used by a group of high-ranking Trump team officials to share detailed information about an attack on Yemen. And they happened to include, by pure accident, a newspaper editor. It caused an awful scandal. It got the National Security Advisor into an enormous amount of trouble. And seems to have happened again. This time it's the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who's shared classified information about airstrikes on Houthi positions in Yemen. And I was talking earlier to Jim Townsend, his former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense. Asked him about the state of American intelligence after that first leak.
The Pentagon was described in meltdown by one of the Trump aides who used to work there and was shoved out the door. 3 others left after him, being accused of leaking. They have since written an op-ed in Politico, I believe it was, saying that they were unfairly treated. And it's just been crazy there at the Pentagon. Right now, the Secretary of Defense doesn't have a Deputy Chief of Staff. He doesn't have... his close advisor is gone. The Deputy Secretary of Defense has lost his Chief of Staff. So, there's home alone for Hegseth and his front office there in the Pentagon. So it's chaos there.
Former Pentagon official Jim Townsend. Now we're joined on the line from America by Harriet Alexander, a US journalist. Hello to you, Harriet. Welcome back.
Hi, John. Hello.
Hi, good to hear your voice, Harry. I must put this to you first of all, because since we've been on air, American NPR radio is reporting the White House says NPR is looking for a new Secretary for Defense. This story is attributed to a U.S. official not authorized to speak publicly. Are you picking up any of this, Harriet?
Yeah, I mean, if that is true, John, and there's no confirmation from the White House yet that is the case. On the one hand, it would be remarkable because Trump this morning was asked about Hegseth's future, and he said that he felt Hegseth was doing a great job. He said, if you want to know how Hegseth is doing, just ask the Houthis, of course, these rebels in Yemen, which have been attacked by the United States. So for the White House then to turn around and look for someone new would perhaps be surprising. But there is absolute outrage at this news that broke over the weekend of Hegseth having a second Signal chat. This one, I think, is more damaging for Hegseth than the first one because this is one that he himself created. So he can't really find an excuse around this. He added his wife and his brother to this group.
Yeah, who would have thought had no business being on a chat group, including details of an attack on the Houthis, including the flight times of US military aircraft, which, I suppose you don't have to be a military expert to know that if you know the flight times, you can know when they're going to take off. You might know if you're the Houthis, when to prepare for them and perhaps prepare an unpleasant greeting for those American military personnel and their Hornet jets. Although, Adam, what do you think? I mean, we did hear just this afternoon, just a very short while ago, President Trump, part of this process of drawing the wagons into a protective circle around Hegseth, calling it all fake news, saying it's all just cooked up by the fake news media. I mean, where do you see, if he's looking at getting rid of him, that would be a step.
Yeah, it would be. I imagine that they are looking at options, but I can't see him going, partly because during the egg roll, Donald Trump has said he has full confidence in him, partly because Hegseth has blamed the media, but partly because if he was going to get rid of him, he would have got rid of him already. This is a Fox News anchor with very, very slim experience. He's served in the military, but he has very slim experience as a defense expert. He was in that group, the original WhatsApp group. Now he's set up a WhatsApp group with his wife. But then, he's been taking his wife to high-level security meetings anyway, and Donald Trump hasn't batted an eyelid. So, these guys are, you could probably say that most of Donald Trump's cabinet, in conventional terms, are not qualified to be doing the job they're doing. But they happen to be, most of them, very rich. And Donald Trump likes people like that.
Yeah. Harriet, how much of a stink has this kicked up in terms of, critical headlines and commentary and all of that sort of thing in America now?
Well, people were concerned about Hegseth right from the get-go. It's interesting that, when he was nominated, there was reports at the time that Donald Trump was actually having second thoughts, because there came out a series of reports. The New Yorker in particular did a really detailed sort of account of his drinking, his womanizing, of accusations of sexual assault that were made against him, which he, of course, has always denied. So there were reports that the White House was looking at alternatives like Ron DeSantis of Florida, or Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, who might be in a better position to be the Secretary of Defense. I think it's worth saying as well what an important role this is in the United States. I mean, the Pentagon is an enormous organization. It's a huge bureaucracy, a $900 billion budget. I mean, it's incredible. And so to manage that, you need somebody who has a really special skill set. And right from the get-go, it was fairly clear that Hegseth, even with the best will in the world, did not have that managerial experience. And so the reaction has been, some people have said, well, what did you expect when you put someone whose experience was, sure, he was in the military, but recently he's been a Fox News host, when you put someone in that position of power. But as Adam was saying, for Trump, he looks the part. Hegseth is someone he likes personally. Trump talks about how, Hegseth has got military recruitment up and is moving away from the DEI initiative. So Trump, publicly at least, seems to have full support for Hegseth.
And Caroline Leavitt, I'm told now, is calling it all fake news. Hard to imagine a reverse on that.
She's just posted a video of her in her gym routine, in case you're interested. So,
Caroline Leavitt.
This is the White House spokesperson. So, I mean, the most damaging thing for Hegseth has been the sackings, 3 sackings and a resignation last week, with John Olio writing a piece for Politico, basically saying that the whole thing was in administrative chaos. But, look at DOGE, look at all the other departments that are in administrative chaos. Doesn't seem to be something that bothers Mr. Trump very much.
Anna, I mean, just imagine what the reaction would have been at Westminster and in Whitehall if this sort of thing had happened here.
Well, indeed, and I think in Whitehall and in Downing Street, it'll be yet another thing that makes our own establishment look at the US and think, how much intelligence sharing do we want to be doing? Because obviously the worst thing about this incident, and you can say, oh, well, it all turned out okay, and even though included people who absolutely should not have seen those details that could have compromised US military personnel, but that doesn't mean that was a guarantee. I would say on the rumors about will he possibly sack Pete Hegseth, that sounds to me like a political tool to make him scared of that and even more loyal and even more sycophantic to the president.